Hello, and the sensor I'm going to talk about in this video is described in the paper called Tough Antibacterial and Self-Healing Ionic Liquid Multivolt Carbon Nanotube Hydrogels as elements to produce flexible strain sensors for monitoring human motion by Zhu Lv et al. From the Changchun University of Technology. So a strain sensor, usually in the form of strain gauge depicted over here, and it's used to measure a strain of something, yeah? In other words, to monitor deformation or stretches of an object. Also it can be used for detecting and categorizing vibrations. Looking at the picture, you can observe the intrinsic rigidness of the gauge. So if you would like to measure something softer, more sensitive, like you, a human, having this metal piece strapped to your body wouldn't result in the most pleasant of the experiences. That is why the recent developments going around 2005 delve into using hydrogel. They have low volatility, meaning they won't evaporate in front of your eyes. They have poor flammability, have adjustable softness, controlled with various additives in their structure, excellent biocompatibility while also being harmless to the environment. Problem is, it doesn't conduct very well, and without the conductivity there is no signal to be measured. And putting wires will only nullify all the mechanical properties of the hydrogel. What doesn't ruin them are carbon nanotubes, which can be either multivolt or single volt. Despite this, the tubes have an awful tendency to gather up in the lumps instead of distributing themselves evenly. Consequently, this ruins the hydrogel structure and properties. So we need another substance called ionic liquid, IL for short. By its name, it might be obvious that their main feature is ionic conductivity. In addition, they have good chemical and electrical stability. Turns out that a mixture of multi-volt carbon nanotubes, specifically carboxylic ones, and IL enhance the conductivity of the gel. Here we have a scheme depicting the creation and structure of the proposed hydrogel sensor. The AAM stands for acrylamide, with the presence of potassium persulfate and
tetramethylethylene diamine.
Create the structure of the hydrogel, grabbing DMLP along the way. More on it later. Meanwhile, the polysorbide emulsifies ionic liquid latex particles, and the carbon tubes form hydrogen bonds with water molecules and the gel's structure. So, what the research team has achieved with this strain sensor? Well, they managed to blow bubbles with it. They tried to impale it and failed, which is a good thing. Lifted 500 grams without any damage. They glued it to a phone and could distinguish 8 different vibration modes. They tracked facial expression movement. They've put a sensor on a throat to monitor breathing, but the sensor managed to also discern speaking, as given examples of laughter or pronouncing the initials of their university. They've measured heartbeat before and after a quick jogging session, and tracked to minor details finger bending, leg flexing and arm stretching. Besides the wonderful mechanical qualities, there's actually more. Its presence kills off bacteria. Usually, such is achieved by adding extra antibacterial agents like silver or zinc nanoparticles or some inorganic salts through difficult and time-consuming steps. Unfortunately, this isn't much efficient in terms of antibacterial properties of the resulted material due to rates of decay. Remember DMLP, which takes direct role in creating the main network of the gel? Well, its full name is
dimethylaminoethyl metaacrylate bromidodecan,
and using its positive electrostatic interactions, it destroys negatively charged membranes of the bacteria. Another quality is self-healing. 24 hours after being cut into pieces, the conductivity of the material restored itself, while also merging the pieces together in such a way that lifting one piece dragged the second along. The paper claims a 35% self-healing efficiency, and from the graph we can see worsened stress resistance. I suppose they can't blow bubbles with it now. Also, the conductivity and strain sensitivity lets the material fool the touchscreen of a typical smartphone. By this point, I hope that you are convinced that this soft sensor is great stuff, but you may also ask yourself, how can it be used in the robotics? We've already seen how this sensor can seamlessly be attached to a person to monitor their physical activities, making the interactions between the human and, for example, medical robot ever more easier and seamless. The researchers also believe that such sensor can become a basis of artificial skin. We take for granted our innate ability to feel touches, which by default a prosthetic assistance device is devoid of. Giving user a feedback of mechanical senses is as important as the movement itself.